There's a specific feeling that comes over you when you're trying to rush your kids out the door. It starts small. You glance at the clock and realize you're later than you want to be. Not terribly late, but late enough to feel it in your body. Your chest tightens a little, your thoughts speed up, you start giving instructions faster. Get your shoes on. Where's your water bottle? Come on, we need to go. Your oldest is mostly ready. He's standing there, waiting, watching. But your middle is sitting on the floor halfway through putting his socks on, completely unbothered by the urgency you feel. And the baby, you suddenly remember his diaper needs to be changed, and then it hits you that you forgot to nurse him. And now you feel behind. You start moving faster. Your voice gets sharper. You're not trying to be harsh, but it's coming out that way. Let's go. I've already told you, we don't have time for this. You feel hot, flustered, overstimulated, and you might grab something a little harder than you meant to, move more abruptly. Your patience is gone. You might start making threats you don't even want to make. If you don't get your shoes on right now, we're not going. Not because you actually mean it, but because you feel desperate to regain control of the situation. Eventually, everyone makes it to the car. You close the door, sit down, and there's this wave of silence. And that's when it hits you. You see their faces, quiet, watching, processing. Maybe they're crying. And you remember, they're not the problem. They're little people, little humans. You weren't the mom you wanted to be in those moments. And the worst part is, it's not the first time. You sit there feeling defeated, ashamed, guilty, wondering why this keeps happening, why something so small can turn you into someone you don't recognize, why you can't seem to get your attitude under control when it matters the most. For a long time, I thought the problem was my patience. I thought maybe I just needed to be more disciplined, more organized, more in control of my emotions. But the truth was, I wasn't feeling because I lacked discipline. I was feeling because I had built a life that left no room for reality, no room for delays, no room for emotions, no room for my children to move at the pace children move at. I expected our days to unfold exactly as I had planned them in my head, and when they didn't, everything in me reacted. Not because my children were doing something wrong, but because my expectations left no margin for them to be who they really were. As stay-at-home moms and homemakers, especially those of us who homeschool, there is this constant pressure to do more. We carry these running lists in our head, or physical lists, lessons to finish, meals to cook, laundry to stay ahead of, errands to run, activities to attend, spiritual habits to build. We don't just want to do these things, we expect ourselves to do them. And when we don't, we internalize it as personal failure. We don't think, that was a full day. We think, I did not do enough. And what I've noticed is that when I live like this, I stop seeing what's right in front of me. I start living for completion instead of connection. I become focused on checking boxes instead of stewarding the people those boxes are meant to serve. And that leads me to my point of this whole video. It's all about margin. Margin is simply space. It's the space between what you expect and what actually happens. It's extra time, extra emotional capacity, extra flexibility. Margin is what allows real life to exist without everything falling apart. Without margin, every delay feels like a threat. Every interruption feels like an obstacle. Every slow moment feels like something to fix. But with margin, those same moments feel manageable. Not because life becomes easier all of a sudden, but because you are no longer operating at your absolute limit. One of the hardest things for me to admit is how much my internal state affected my boys. Children don't just listen to what we say, they absorb how we live. When I was anxious, rushed, overstimulated, they became more emotional too. They resisted more. They melted down more easily. They weren't being obstinate, but it was because they were responding to the environment that I was creating. I've come to believe that anxious and stressed mothers often raise anxious and stressed children, not intentionally, but because emotional states transfer to them. When I slow down, they slow down. When I'm steady, they become steadier. Margin doesn't just change how I feel, it changes how they experience their home. Slowing down allows you to enjoy your children. And this might be the most important thing I've learned. You enjoy your children more when you stop rushing through your life. When I'm rushing, everything they do feels like something that's in the way. Their questions feel inconvenient. Their slowness feels very frustrating and irritating. But when I allow time for the day to unfold, I see them differently. I'm curious about them. I notice their curiosity, their personalities, their thoughts. I feel more connected to them. Hurry can erode that connection, not just in one moment, but over time. And when hurry becomes our normal state, you stop experiencing the fullness of motherhood. You're physically present, but emotionally elsewhere. Margin allows you to stay. I kind of look at it like when you have worn down a path. So say you're walking on a path or you're driving over and over again. And as you continue to drive or walk over that path, it wears down the grass and you can start to see the dirt underneath it. And then it just becomes a normal path for you to go every single time and you won't go any different direction. And that's very similar to the paths that we create in our brain and in our lives. The more that we go over them and do them over and over again, the more worn down and the easier it is for us to take that path. And we need to change directions when we want to get off that path and do something different. A little side note here of something else that changed everything for me was understanding my capacity is not the same every day. There are parts of my cycle where I feel clear-headed and capable and really energized, and there are parts where everything feels heavier to me. My patience is thinner, my emotional tolerance is lower, my mental clarity isn't the same. And for a long time, I fought against this. I expected myself to operate at full capacity every single day. And when I couldn't, I blamed myself. What was wrong with me? Why couldn't I do this the same that I did a week ago? Why wasn't I feeling the same about this certain part of our day? But nothing was actually wrong with me. My body was simply not in the same state. Margin allows you to honor your capacity instead of fighting it. Living without margin assumes that you are the same person every single day, but you aren't. And when you build margin into your life as a regular part of your life, you create room for those natural shifts without everything falling apart. One of the biggest changes I made was waking up early. And I know you're probably rolling your eyes because that's like a new thing to say is get up at 5 a.m. and do your morning routine. But I will say, hands down, making the time to wake up early, even if you are in a tough season, is beneficial for your mental health and to give yourself margin throughout the day. My husband is really great. He takes our boys from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. in the morning during the week. Now, he doesn't actually wake up at 5 a.m. with them. I just give him the monitor and he watches it until the boys come out. Normally our infant wakes up anywhere from 6 to 7 a.m. and he gets up with him then and sometimes can sleep all the way to 7 a.m. and our boys cannot come out of their room until 7 a.m. and they're normally awake by 6:30, 6:45, but they're kind of in there laying around, waking up slowly. So he doesn't have the kids right away at 5 a.m., but he knows that that chunk of time from 5 to 8 in the morning during the week is my time. And I do not always get up at 5 a.m. If I've had a rough night with the baby or I haven't slept well or something fell off and I need my body to have more rest, I do sleep in and I take that time for myself. That time has become incredibly important for me. I drink my coffee slowly, I read my Bible, I do my Bible study, I journal, I look over my homeschool plans, I work on my YouTube editing on my videos. There's a lot of things that go into that time. And it allows me not to react to my day. I'm entering my day deliberately. That alone has changed the tone of my entire day. Another change was giving myself far more time than I needed to get out the door. I used to think I could get out the door in 5 or 10 minutes, and we couldn't. Every single time we couldn't. And when we were late, I became someone I didn't want to be. So now I start preparing twice as early. I use simple timers to keep myself grounded in the reality of the actual time that it is. And what I realized was that I wasn't angry at my children anymore when I was doing that. Lastly, a huge part of my life in giving myself margin is I protect our mornings. Most mornings, I don't schedule anything outside the home. That time is reserved for homeschool and simply being together because I know interruptions will still happen. And margin allows those interruptions to exist without creating chaos in my life. This was a really hard thing for me to do because I always committed to keeping our mornings sacred before the holidays. And then we went on vacation and the holidays happened and we got home and there were all these appointments. And finally I got to the point where there was this 1 week and we didn't have a single minute to ourselves or a single day where we were not going somewhere. And I knew I needed to create more margin like I had promised myself at the beginning of the school year so that we could feel good in our mornings and things weren't rushed. What I've realized is that margin isn't about being productive. It's about who you become inside your life. Without margin, I was reactive, irritable, disconnected. With margin, I am steadier, more patient, more present with my kids. I wouldn't say that I'm perfect at this, but I'm definitely different. Margin allows me to respond instead of react. It allows me to experience my life instead of rushing through it. I want to share a few simple ways you can begin assessing your own life and where you might need more margin. Not so that you can overhaul everything overnight, but so you can start noticing and changing. Because margin doesn't just appear all at once. It's created in small moments deliberately. The first thing is to simply notice where you feel the most rushed. For me, it was getting out the door. That was where I consistently became someone I did not want to be. I was short and reactive and overwhelmed and overstimulated. Your moment might be different. It might be bedtime. It might be mornings. It might be transitioning between activities, but there is usually a pattern. Pay attention to where you feel that pressure in your body, where your patience disappears quickly, where you feel like you're forcing the day forward. That's often where margin is missing. The second step is to give yourself more time than you think you need. Most of us underestimate how long things will take, especially with children. We expect adult timelines from our little people. So if you think something will take 10 minutes, give yourself 20. Not because you're slow or your kids are slow, but because your life includes other humans than yourselves, and it's very unpredictable. And building that extra space removes the pressure before the pressure even starts. The third step is to stop filling every open space you have. This one has been very important for me, especially with homeschooling. It can be tempting to schedule activities, outings, and plans constantly because they feel productive and enriching to your family. But children and mothers need space to exist without constant direction. Not every day needs to be full to be meaningful. Some of the best moments happen in the unplanned spaces. The fourth step is to be honest about your current capacity. Not your ideal capacity, what you wish you could do, not what you think you should be able to handle right now, but what you can realistically carry in this season. And I can promise you it's going to be a lot less than you think. This will change throughout your cycle. It will change depending on your sleep, your stress, your emotional state, what season you are in life. And honoring that is not weakness. It's a wisdom inside of you. Living within your capacity protects both you and your family. And finally, remind yourself that margin is not something you earn after everything is done. It is something you create so that you can live well while you're doing it. You do not need to prove your worth through exhaustion. Your children benefit far more from your steadiness than your productivity. Margin allows you to become the mother you already want to be. Your children do not need a mother who gets everything done. They need a mother who is emotionally present. They need a home where they feel safe, not hurried. Margin creates that space. You stop demanding that it moves faster. When you build margin into your days, you give yourself permission to live inside of it instead of constantly chasing ahead of it.